That's why they pay athletes these fantastic salaries. I was listening to the radio the other day. They just contracted to pay one player on one team $6 million a year. Can you believe this?
And why is that?
It's the Roman circus. What does the emperor do when the people become restive, and when the people are asking questions, and when the people don't like the policies of the emperor? He sends them to the circus. He creates a circus. He builds a giant coliseum. And he begins to throw the Christians to the lions. And he has great chariot races and football games and basketball games, all to keep the idiots preoccupied with things that don't mean anything in the scheme of the entire world, so that they don't have the time to learn what the truth is, so they don't ever get smart enough to learn how they're being manipulated, so they don't ever question the emperor. That's why they pay a player on a football team or a baseball team $1 million or $2 million or $3 million a year. It is the Roman circus. I know men who don't know anything in the world except who plays third base for the Mets. And they think that's a great accomplishment. And they meet and pat each other on the back and bond and go have cocktails and talk about what this guy that plays third base for the Mets did in last night's game. It's sad. It's really sad.
Is there any room in a kind of society where these manipulations are not taking place for this type of entertainment, or any type of entertainment at all?
If people understand that a game is a game, if people understand that nobody, no matter what they do, is worth paying $2 or $3 million a year for, people should be able to get rich if they want to, by the sweat of their individual labor. Okay? By going out and doing something for the world. Not by taking people's minds away from the emperor. It's a game. Football's a game. Football's a game. But let me tell you something. When 150 of the most powerful men and women in the world can meet in secret in Baden-Baden, Germany, and plot the fate of billions, and nobody even cares about it, but 6 football players go to lunch together, and it's in the headlines across the country, you have a reflection of the society in which that exists. And it is a sick society that is doomed to self-destruction. This man believes in Marxism. This man is a socialist. Not only a socialist, he's an international socialist. He's a globalist. His goal, stated in his book, is to destroy the sovereignty of nations and bring about a one-world Marxist government.
Now, the Carter administration was one extreme, and then we came into the Reagan administration, yet
nothing changed.
Nothing changed. What you're saying is that no matter what the political leanings, they seem to be playing the same game.
As long as you're playing their game, it doesn't matter who you vote for, who you put in office. They all belong to the other side. They're in the pockets of the Illuminati. When you quit electing professional politicians, when you quit electing the guy who looks nice on television because he speaks good and he looks like the guy you wanted to marry or something like that, you're playing right into their hands. You know, they made it so impossible for another Abraham Lincoln to get elected to the office of president that it's a wonder that we even have a chance at all. We need to send people to Congress and to government who are going to clean house. Kick all the members of secret societies out of the bureaucracy. Lock them up. Try them for treason.
Look at the current.
They're taking care of themselves.
The current crop of presidential candidates. Is there anybody even running that represents something that we're talking about here?
No, all of them are New World people. Tsongas, in his book, even everything that he's written touts the New World Order. All of it, right for Tsongas' literature. You're going to see New World Order, New World Order, New World Order, New World Order. Clinton, the governor of Georgia, was selected in 1991 by the Bilderberg, or excuse me, governor of Arkansas, was selected in 1991 by the Bilderberg group in Baden-Baden, Germany, to be the new president of the United States. Remember what happened to Gary Hart? What did he do? He went out on a boat with a woman who wasn't his wife, and he was destroyed. Look at Clinton. What's happened to him? Nothing. The press is on his side. They're helping the guy. You know why? Because he was chosen by the people who own the press to be the next president of the United States. Now, I don't know if he will be or not. That's up to the American people. But if they get their way, he will be. Bush is one of the most heinous criminals that's ever walked on the face of the earth. Bush is the man who's been a CIA agent since his college days. He's a member of the Skull and Bones, the Russell Trust. He was initiated in a casket.
The point is that you have to work. And that's why the propaganda system is so successful. People are going to have the time or the energy or the commitment to carry out the constant battle that's required to get outside of, McNeil Lair or Dan Rather or somebody like that. The easy thing to do, you come home from work, you're tired, you've had a busy day, you're not going to spend the evening carrying out a research project. So you turn on the tube, you say it's probably right, or you look at the headlines in the paper and then you watch the sports or something. And that's basically the way the system of indoctrination works. Sure, the other stuff is there, but you're going to have to work to find it.
As long as some specialized class is in a position of authority, it is going to set policy in the special interests that it serves. But the conditions of survival, let alone justice, require rational social planning in the interests of the community as a whole, and by now that means the global community. The question is whether privileged elites should dominate mass communication and should use this power as they tell us they must, namely to impose necessary illusions, to manipulate and deceive the stupid majority and remove them from the public arena. The question in brief is whether democracy and freedom are values to be preserved or threats to be avoided. In this possibly terminal phase of human existence, democracy and freedom are more than values to be treasured. They may well be essential to survival. Thank you.
He's up there thinking for himself, and he's deciphering this tremendously overweighted body of information, which he puts into an order and gives you the feeling that you can do the same thing, that the whole thing is decipherable. And he also gives you the sense that there is a source, there's a center to a dissenting population, although we feel that there's no center. And I think that is what reactivated in me a desire to get reacquainted with the political scene after 30 years of alienation from it.
On the north side of the State House, by the entrance to the State Room, the chants of protesters could be heard loud and clear.
Open Ohio now! Open Ohio now!
Watching on TV, the protesters' message wasn't clear, but you may have been able to hear something going on. One of those voices outside the State House belongs to Jennifer Franz.
We feel like the virus is less of a danger to us than our rights being stripped from us.
I don't think anybody's going to agree to a vaccine or a test in this crowd.
A lot of frustration out here on the streets. They wanted gridlock, and they are getting it. Cars as far as the eye can see. We're seeing a lot of signs out here as well that say, impeach dimwit, meaning Governor Whitmer, the guy with the cardboard sign. Usually I'm at work right now. A lot of people who are out of work are up here.
Our community is struggling. My husband is on unemployment for the first time in our life. And it's unwillingly that we're taking unemployment. We want to go back to work. We have employees. We have paychecks to issue. We have bills to pay. The only stores open are Walmart? That's ridiculous. That's why we're here.
A number of Vancouverites aren't drinking the Kool-Aid, and they're getting out and they're getting together here to show the world that we're not okay with unlawful orders and quarantines and lockdowns.
Sure, let's do it. Let's do it. It's a beautiful day here. be ashamed to just sit at home and let the government tell you what to do.
Getting a lot of support too from cars driving by.
Yep.
Not everybody drank the Kool-Aid. It's good to see.
20,000 Pakistanis are stuck in the UAE. They have reportedly registered with the Pakistani consulate on the 3rd of April to be able to return to Pakistan, but have so far received no response. And that is why they chose to take to the streets today, flouting the social distancing guidelines.
The big story that we're tracking for you this evening, those are images that we're getting to you from the Bandra station in Mumbai, where protesters have gathered. These are migrant labor, we're given to understand, who gathered to protest against the extension of the lockdowns.
Wer Freiheit gibt für Sicherheit, verliert am Ende alles zwei. Wer Freiheit gibt für Sicherheit, verliert am Ende alles zwei. Wer Freiheit gibt für Sicherheit, verliert am Ende alles zwei. Wer Freiheit gibt für Sicherheit, verliert am Ende alles zwei. Wer Freiheit gibt für Sicherheit, verliert am Ende alles zwei. Wer Freiheit gibt für Sicherheit, verliert am Ende.
Yes. There are protests happening all around the globe, even as I speak. They are happening across the United States, in South Africa, in Nigeria, in Germany, in India, in other places besides. These protests are happening. So the fact that someone like Diane even has to ask about this speaks to the more underlying problem, which is that the gatekeepers of access to information online, like Google, and increasingly, like DuckDuckGo, who I will note parenthetically, has been getting worse and worse with its search results, I've noticed in recent months, so that it is becoming a Google Lite, much like StartPage.com became a Google Lite a year or two ago. It is slipping down that path. So the gatekeepers of online information are directing people who would be interested in such information towards mainstream sources that, of course, are going to portray this as crazy anti-lockdown conspiracy theorists who are killing grandma by daring to go out in public without a mask and not observing proper social distancing rules. This is, of course, the way this information is going to be framed in the mainstream, so no surprise that you are not hearing about this at all there, or to the extent that you are, it is generally by masked reporters who are afraid to go anywhere near these filthy protesters.
We occasionally find one. Today, I think we can say maybe the ice has been broken, they're breaking out, and people are getting tired of it, and they're being tired of lockdown, and maybe it wasn't a good idea. So that to me is good news, and there's now demonstrations that people are speaking out. The reason I like this is there's a saying, and I endorse the saying, is that no matter how authoritarian a government one has, the people have to endorse it. You know, once the people reject it, the government goes. Sometimes it's slow and tedious, but even the ones that are installed, they get the people's support. And right now, the authoritarianism that we've been living with and all the excesses in our financial system and the medical system, people have tolerated and they like it, and most people still probably think, all we have to do is tinker with the management. But it's also people that we're seeing now in the streets are saying, boy, this is enough. This lockdown doesn't sound American to us. And they're going out on the streets and demonstrating. And I'm all for that as long as it's peaceful.
Yeah.
But it annoys the authorities because they don't want us out of our house.
Yeah.
How can you demonstrate if you have to stay? How can you demonstrate if you're not allowed to have more than a couple people together? You can hardly get your grocery shopping done. So it is a challenge, but I think the people are tired of it. And I think they're starting to speak out. I think it's going to grow by leaps and bounds because I think that is the natural thing to happen.
As always, the link to that full conversation will be in the show notes in case you want to check it out. But suffice it to say that, yes, there are protests taking place all around the world right now. Yes, people are pushing back in many places, even as I speak. And it is important once again to reflect on the fact that there are still people out there who haven't even heard about this, and some of the people who have only heard about it from mainstream controlled sources that are trying to frame this as crazy conspiracy theorists. The reason why the first order of the psychological operation that is played out against the public is to convince you that you are all alone is because the real truth, the ground truth that they desperately do not want you to think about, is that they need your compliance to make this happen. This is an exceptionally important point. This is the reason why so much time, effort, attention, and energy is directed into propagandizing the public on various things. It is because what you think, what you believe, influences the way you act and what you are or are not willing to accept. You control reality. You control your reality. This is an exceptionally important subject, and it is the reason why propaganda even exists, is to try to convince you you're all alone, you're a fringe wingnut conspiracy theorist, everyone's laughing at you, and if you go step outside your house, you will A, die of COVID-19 immediately, and B, be snitched upon and set up by your neighbors and set upon by the jackbooted thugs of the police state. So resistance is futile, stay at home. And literally, I mean, they couldn't make it any more blatant. The propaganda campaign slogan for this is stay at home, literally. So yes, that's exactly what they want you to do. And the way to defy this, the way to end the lockdown is not some occult mystery. It's not going to require some sort of 18-dimensional chess. It's not going to be some big plan that's going to, okay, well, first we need to do the second, we need to... No, you end the lockdown because the lockdown only happens because of compliance, because people comply with it, because people go along with it. This is not a difficult point. In fact, it was put recently. Jeff Berwick had a video up, share this now, and we can end the lockdown by tomorrow morning, where yes, the lockdown is taking place in our minds, and if we go outside, we have ended the lockdown. This is not rocket science, people. And so, yes, I understand people who are concerned about their safety, not necessarily because of COVID-19, but hey, maybe there are people who are concerned about that. So take whatever precautions you want. But for people who want to go outside, go outside. And yes, I understand that you may be subject to the snitches of the neighborhood snitch state and the jackbooted thugs of the police state if you do so in defiance of government orders, if you dare to try to open your business during this lockdown. So there is strength in numbers, and that's why it's important to know about these protests that are taking place. Whatever it takes, the lockdown only exists because people comply with it, and I hate to tell people, but mass disobedience, mass non-compliance is going to be necessary in order to combat tyranny. It's going to happen sooner or later. The only problem being, if it happens much later, then unfortunately it will not be able to happen at all because, as you may have noticed, the police state is locking down right now. They are putting every single bar of this prison into place right now. And as each bar gets slotted into place, and then it gets harder and harder. Here comes the surveillance and tracking, and here comes the immunity passports, and here comes the mandatory vaccinations, and here comes the cashless society. It's all coming down. The bars are coming down, shutting in your prison. If you do not disobey, then there will be a time when you cannot disobey. So keep that in mind, and keep in mind the fundamental underlying point of this question. Is anybody protesting? Yes, people are protesting, and you don't know about it because they don't want you to know about it. So first of all, please do not get your information at least solely from mainstream sources. Please look for online alternative sources. I've just pointed out a few. There are many more out there. I'm sure helpful people can suggest more in the comment section of this report. And secondarily, yes, the lockdown exists in your mind, and you have to start disobeying at some point. That's the message for today. James Corbett, CorbettReport.com.